Freeman, Master Chief, Solid Snake, and a very famous prince.
Today on the show, we have Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, Rumble Roses, Prince of Persia Warrior Within, and at Versus, it's Halo 2 versus Half-Life 2.
Some of the games we look at in Reviews on the Run are intended for a mature audience. Please pay attention to each game's ESRB rating. We're here in the jungle for a very specific reason. We're talking Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater from Konami for the PlayStation 2. This is Hideo Kojima's latest Solid Snake.
This actually happens before all of them.
In the 60s,
right.
In the height of the Cold War. This is right around the time of the Cuban Missile Crisis and
they
the
went
JFK
Rambo on us.
Assassination. And Snake is a younger fellow, and he meets a younger Revolver Ocelot, as well as some other kind of allusions to things that will happen in the future of Solid Snake's life.
I felt that some of the controls were starting to get a little old now.
No kidding.
I was hoping that we could see more of the camera angles,
well,
control more of the camera angles.
They took the radar off.
They took the radar off.
You can pick up a sonar thing or a motion detector thing that will vibrate, and you can, pick up some devices that act as sort of the radar thing that you used to have in the Metal Gear games.
And I understand that it doesn't work within the time frame and the storyline and all that, but so what? That was the really cool part about Metal Gear is you could see the cones of the people coming at you.
Yeah, you can see the bad guys coming. Well, I'll tell you what doesn't work is not knowing where the bad guys are.
Right.
That really sucks.
Exactly.
Because they can hear you off screen.
Yes.
They know where you are. They're shooting you with AK-47s.
Absolutely.
And you don't know where they are.
One of my biggest complaints, though, with the game
is
is the fact that the script writing in this game is so bad.
The head of the CIA has finally given us the green light for the virtuous mission.
Virtual mission?
No, the virtuous mission.
I mean, he brings in, who's the composer that do the music?
Harry Grayson Williams.
Who is an amazing composer, and the music is outstanding in this game. Why didn't they go the extra distance and bring in some more polished script writing to make it more of a cinematic thing?
Now, the first 2 hours of this game, you're probably, if you watch the whole thing, you're probably going to play a total of about 5 minutes.
Yeah, I know.
But, there's lots of storytelling in the first couple hours.
Yeah.
Hours, yes, I said hours.
Yeah.
They have some very cool items this time around as well. You can kind of take this pill that makes you seem dead.
Yep.
Different microphones so that you can hear from far away.
I love that.
Great stealthy type stuff that other games haven't done before.
How about killing animals and having to eat them to survive and to keep your stamina together?
Did you hear that?
You have to kill animals, and they each give you different pieces of stamina depending on how big it is.
Eating rats.
You can eat rats, you can eat snakes, you can eat alligators. And speaking of alligators, the swimming in the game is unbelievable. It's like, murky mud, gross water, and you're swimming around. All of a sudden, you'll see the legs of an alligator, and you move a long way. And if it gets you, man, you're done.
You're screwed.
That's one of my favorite moments in the game, actually, is getting snapped in half by an alligator. I also like the fact that you could cure your wounds by going in and, you can put styptic sort of stuff on there to stop the bleeding, and you can sew it up, and you can burn leeches off your body. Well, let's talk about the jungle effects as well. The foliage in the world is unbelievable. Snake can, of course, climb trees now, but I love just crawling through the underbrush and seeing it all move and sway out of the way.
You can climb the trees they want you to climb.
I was pretty impressed. I was definitely more entertained by this game than the previous Metal Gear. It's definitely not the same.
It doesn't have that awesome shock value
that Metal Gear 1 did.
Metal Gear 1 did. But it's definitely a better game than Metal Gear 2, I think.
I thought so, too.
I got to give it an 8.
I'm giving it an 8.5. On the positive side, the jungle and environments in Metal Gear Solid 3 are sensational. All of the gadgets that Snake picks up along the way are very cool. And great new additions like being able to swim, eat the food that you kill, and heal yourself are very cool.
On the negative side, we felt the controls are starting to get a little outdated. We wish there was some way to incorporate where the enemies were on screen. Our radar's gone, and we don't know who's shooting us. And although the storyline is excellent, the script writing is really atrocious.
All right, stick around. We're going to do a little rumbling in the jungle when we come back and talk about Rumble Roses after the break.
Oh, hi. I'm just playing my Spider-Man game on the Nintendo DS. I'm a bit of a Spidey freak, I guess you could say. And let me tell you something, this game does not disappoint. I mean, basically the game is pretty much 2D in that you're pretty much on, you know, one rail running around and stuff, although the images and graphics are in 3D, but it really gives you a great sense of 3D because you're, you know, turning corners and doing all sorts of stuff. I love the web slinging in this, you know, the actual, you know, going across. They did a really good job. This is a unique game. It's not like the other handheld games. It's not like the console games, of course. It's a unique Spider-Man game. Lots of great fighting, lots of things to collect. Putting a Spider-Man game on the DS really made my day. I love it a lot. It's a decent game. I'm giving it an 8.5.
All right, we are back in the jungle, and we've got to sit down for this one. This is Rumble Roses from Konami, also for the PlayStation 2.
Look, it's Paco from the game Amazon from back in the 80s. You remember that one?
That's a very inside joke right there, man. That's good. I never even played that game before.
5 people are going, yeah!
So what did you think of Rumble Roses?
Well, you know, I thought I was going to really love this game, you know.
I thought you were going to really love this game.
Here's a game where there's 10 different females.
Yep.
And there's also... He didn't like it.
Not a fan.
No.
Not a fan.
I agree with the freaking bird.
You must have played the story mode.
Yeah, exactly. So you play one of 10 girls, or there's 10 other alter ego characters, which is basically their way of saying...
It's the Bizarro version of the same girls.
We're going to use the same character models because we can't afford to come up with 10 other characters. Now, the bodies on the girls were really well done and looked great, but the heads and the faces look so stiff and mannequin-like.
They look like separate elements, like they just popped them all together kind of thing.
That's right.
You know, and in spite of all of the issues that the game has, it's still a playable experience. You know, you still have a pretty solid wrestling engine underneath it. It was developed by Ukes. They did some of the SmackDown games in the past, and they've done a pretty good job here. I mean, you can do some killer moves, some intimidation style moves.
But you know what I didn't like is I didn't like the fact that, like, you know, when your opponent gets you in a lock or holds you, you can't do anything to get out of it.
That's wrestling, though.
Because you could do counter moves and everything in some of these games.
Well, it's no Def Jam, I'll tell you that. It's not as fun as Def Jam.
I felt like I was
not as fun as Day of Reckoning, and it's not as fun as the SmackDown versus Raw game that's out there.
I felt that I was just sitting there watching attacks. And I'll tell you, the worst part about the game is the story mode. It's like they went out and purposely tried to find the worst voice actors they could find.
It's really bad.
It's horrible. It's stereotypical.
There's going to be a lot of people offended by this game. There's lots of really, you know...
But even the quality of this stuff, like, for example, they have a great thing. Okay, let's talk about mud wrestling.
Yeah.
Oh, it's cool. And then, you know, they do stuff where you get mud. The girls actually get mud.
The mud looks ridiculous.
But the mud looks so stupid. Even the music, right? Like, they did David Lee Roth's Yankee Rose.
Right.
They got Van Halen's Hot for Teacher.
Yeah.
But again, they redo it in this really cheesy kind of way. It's just like, you know...
And everything is themed to all the stereotypical sort of female creations. You've got the cowgirl, the teacher, the nurse.
And talking about low production quality, even the subtitles and the voice acting doesn't match each other some of the times.
Right.
It's like they changed the script in the studio and then I just didn't feel like bother going back and changing the text. That would have been too difficult.
Too much repetition. It's all exactly the same, and it's all bad. I'm giving Rumble Roses... I'm giving Rumble Roses I'm giving Rumble Roses a 4 out of 10.
I'm giving it a 3.5.
On the positive side, Rumble Roses does have a pretty solid wrestling engine. If you're looking for it, there are lots of nearly naked women in the game, and there are lots of nearly naked women in the game.
On the negative side, it's some of the worst voice acting we've ever had the displeasure of experiencing. The story mode is ridiculous, and the characters are way too stereotypical. And what's up with the mud looking like chocolate milk?
All right, you guys, stick around. When we come back, we're talking about Prince of Persia, Warrior Within.
We take games seriously.
All right, now here's a first-person shooter called X111. 13. It's 13. And anyway, this is a game by Ubisoft, and here's a game that kind of flew under the radar. It was an amazing first-person shooter game, and it used cel-shaded graphics, but it felt like you were playing this real-life comic book. I mean, it was absolutely unbelievable. And it even had an online play on Xbox Live. It had a really cool kind of, jazzy big band funk fusion kind of soundtrack as well. But it was really about the environments and the atmosphere and the weapons. And it really kept you moving along. It wasn't too difficult. It really kept you going. And it really had that whole kind of spy, espionage type vibe. David Duchovny from the X-Files did some voices. Overall, great game from Ubisoft. Flew under the radar, talking about 13.
We are back, and we found this scenic desert-like environment because we're talking about Prince of Persia, Warrior Within. This is from Ubisoft. We looked at it on the GameCube, but it's also available for the PlayStation 2, Xbox, and PC. What'd you think of this one, man?
Yeah, well, Prince of Persia was officially the first game I ever gave a 10 to on this particular show.
Sands of Time, that's
Sands
right.
of Time, unbelievable game. I gotta tell you, I was a little disappointed and let down in this version of the game, and I'll tell you why. The reason is they went with a darker style of game,
Yeah.
There's decapitations. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm all for decapitations.
Right.
But not in Prince of Persia.
And now what we've got is a game that still has a lot of the great gameplay refinement, but it has this edgy rock and roll music
What
all
is
the way through the
that
thing.
all about?
And it has I think these decapitations and these gory cut in half kind of kill the creatures kind of stuff. It's unnecessary.
Unneeded. Completely unneeded. The Dagger of Time is an awesome element of that. Build on stuff like that. Build on the storyline and the great voice acting and presentation.
They took out, you remember how in the first game where you'd walk into an environment and you didn't know exactly where you were supposed to be going?
And the camera led you.
Yeah, and it sort of did this little flash scene of
Yep.
what you were supposed to be doing. And
Where's that?
That's gone. They also took out, any kind of story development for giving you the powers. You just basically beat a level and you get granted some new abilities. And there's no real connection to why you're getting those powers and what that means for you in story terms, I mean, they do have this cool thing where you get to travel through this environment in the past and the present, and
Right.
you find these rooms that zap you back in time and the environments all change. But to me, it felt a little bit like they had the geometry all built and they wanted to sort of double extend the length of the game.
Now, what they did improve on is the combat and fighting
Yes.
system. I thought,
Absolutely.
they added a lot, and this is what I wanted to see more of, but they added a lot more animations and easier,
More abilities,
you're
more
flipping
weapons.
over guys and stuff like that. And
I like that.
Again, you can split guys in half and cut guys' heads off. Now, I will say that the production quality, though, is still very high.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
The cinematics are brilliant. The graphics overall are quite excellent. And
Yep.
I even think an upgrade from last year as well. It's fun to play.
Yep.
That's for sure.
What did you like better, the combat or the platform puzzle acrobatic stuff?
I like the combat.
I like
combat.
the jumping and flipping and trying to.
And there's more combat in this game
Yeah.
than there is the puzzle stuff.
I
as
got
well.
into the combat. I love fighting the giants and climbing up on their back and bashing their heads and then
Right.
finally stabbing them. And
If when you die, if you have to go through and do the cinematics again, if you push the button to go through this, it actually does a speed up version
Yeah.
of the cinematic,
That's
which I
cool.
thought was kind of unique and cool.
That's cool, and I also like they still, they keep the whoosh sounds whenever you change the camera angles.
Yeah.
They've added some really, they've kept a lot of that really classy, flashy stuff that was great in the first game.
Well put together, awesome game, fun game,
Right.
high production qualities. They just dropped the ball on trying to make it too edgy and too dark. It didn't
Agreed.
need to do that. It absolutely didn't need to
It
go
didn't
in that
need
direction.
to do that. I don't think Prince of Persia: Sands of Time fans are going to be, completely disgusted with this game or disappointed with this game, but it definitely isn't, I think, of the same caliber as Sands of Time.
What are you going to give
I'm
it?
going to give it 8.5 out of 10.
Exactly what I give it, an 8.5. On the positive side, we still have all the really great high-quality production values that the first game did. The combat system has been upgraded with a lot more animations, and the graphics and visual effects overall are better than last year.
On the negative side, the darker and edgier look and feel of the game is completely unnecessary. Same goes with the extreme amount of violence in the game. We didn't need decapitations. And finally, What's up with all that hard rockin' music in a game like this? It just doesn't fit. All right, now we're going to talk about a brand new piece of hardware that's compatible with Halo 2, which is a game we're going to be talking about pretty soon. But this is Plantronics Gamecom Halo 2 branded headset for Xbox Live. It's ergonomically shaped to squeeze right into your brain pan. And basically, you put it on your head. Yeah. It's very light. It's definitely lighter than the traditional Xbox Live
But it was hard
headset.
to get on, too, because you got to kind of turn the nubby.
You're not an AT&T operator, so this is a new thing for you.
You got the thing. But it didn't have the thingy to put into the other thingy.
I think it's called well, I call it the puck.
And here is the worst part about it all.
Yeah.
Is the price on this thing.
$50 US.
Well, that's if you can find it at that. I was seeing it for even higher than that in some stores.
Right.
It's got the see-through green plastic, Halo plastic stuff.
I'm sure Master Chief is wearing one underneath the helmet.
No.
Nah, probably not.
No. Look, the deal for me is I don't like stuff being shoved in my ear.
I gotcha.
So, you know.
Not going to recommend it?
It ends there with me.
If it weren't so expensive, I'd probably recommend it, but I can't at the price that we found it at. On the positive side, the Halo 2 communicator looks really cool. It's very well built with some great electronics inside, and you can use it on your left or your right ear.
On the negative side, if you don't like things stuck in your ear like me, then you're probably not going to like this. Although there's quality materials inside, the price is just way too expensive. And finally, it doesn't come with that communicator thingy-jig thing that you put in the Xbox controller or whatever you call it.
All right, you guys, don't go away. When we come back, it's the biggest versus of the year. It's Halo 2 against Half-Life 2. You don't want to miss this one.
Adventure games. Starting off with Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time. Number 2 is Beyond Good and Evil. Number 3, The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. Number 4, Shenmue 2. And number 5, The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers.
Hey, welcome to Versus. This actually might be the very biggest Versus segment we've ever made.
Bigger than that fishing one we did?
Yes, bigger than the fishing one. This is Halo 2 versus Half-Life 2.
Whoa.
All right, man, this is it. The two biggest, most hyped first-person shooters of 2004. Let's start talking graphics. How do you think the graphics measured up against each other?
I gotta say, in Half-Life 2, I was in this story and this world that they've created. The facial animations on the characters, you'd be talking
They're
to
really
people
coming to life around you, aren't they? It's insane.
It's incredible, you know. Now, Halo 2 doesn't have bad graphics. They just don't stack up to what Half-Life 2 offers.
No, I mean, the stuff that you're seeing in Halo 2 is definitely state-of-the-art material for the Xbox. You know, of course, the glint off of Master Chief's helmet is amazing, and I think what they've done with the aliens is the most impressive visually in the game, but you are seeing blooming effects, and you are seeing rendering artifacts and things like that. These little sort of, you know, glitches that take you out of the cutscene experience.
Right, and there was a couple of even shots too where I saw some of the texture maps kind of pop in.
I think it's pretty evident, even just from looking at the materials, that
Half-Life 2 gets the nod for graphics.
Yeah, Half-Life 2. Let's talk audio.
Okay, now audio. The music in Halo 2 is absolutely unbelievable.
Took my breath away.
The choir stuff, you know, the interactivity of all of it.
Steve Vai playing a guitar solos and stuff like that.
Little guitar action there.
I thought that was cool. I thought it was a little, you know, it was a nice addition. I didn't think it was completely necessary, but I did enjoy it. And what I was surprised about Halo 2 is that it was the quieter moments in the music that I was most affected by. I thought it was absolutely haunting and riveting. Whereas in Half-Life 2, the story isn't so much about the music in that game. I mean, it does have some nice music interspersed throughout the action.
But they got Luke Gossett Jr.
It's the voiceover acting. It's all of the, you know, the environmental effects and all of the bullets ricocheting all over the place.
But in Halo 2, they have the whole 5.1 audio, which is unbelievable.
Agreed.
I have to go with the full package that Halo 2 offers with the amazing music and the 5.1.
I agree. I mean, you really remember the audio in Halo 2. And I'm not saying that the audio in Half-Life 2 is bad. It's just that the stuff in Halo 2 resonates. All right, let's talk now about gameplay.
The single-player experience in Half-Life 2 is absolutely unbelievable. They have this gravity gun thing. You start by picking up little objects, then later in the game it actually, gets upgraded and you're tearing out chunks of monitors.
The thing I like about Half-Life 2, it feels like you're on the run. From the moment you put the disc in and you start playing the game, it felt like I was in Minority Report and I was running from people the entire time.
In Halo 2, the enemy's AI is really excellent, and your teammates, if you turn around and start shooting their teammates, they get mad at you, they shoot back at you, which we saw in the original Halo.
One of the cool things that they've added this year to Halo 2 is the ability to play as a Covenant Elite Warrior, which is great. So suddenly you have his abilities and his whole viewpoint. It almost humanizes the enemy. It gives you perspective on how big this this ensuing chaos, this galactic chaos really is, and how many different races and civilizations it's affecting. But where Halo 2 wins all of its points is in the unbelievable choices you get in its multiplayer games.
I mean, people are freaking out about online Halo 2.
I mean, some of the team battles and some of the things that you can do together in Halo 2, those are seriously some of the best moments you're going to have in video gaming ever in general, period. I was blown away by both. But if I had to only choose one in terms of gameplay, I would tend to agree with you and stick with the richer, deeper, more inviting and enveloping single-player experience of Half-Life 2. So overall, this is really a ridiculously difficult decision to make, but if I had to choose one of these games, I would have to choose Half-Life 2.
I'd have to agree with you there. Half-Life 2, I feel like I'm playing in this world. Halo 2, I feel like I'm playing a video game. I got to go with Half-Life 2.
So what are you going to give Half-Life 2?
I'm giving it a 9.5.
I'm giving it a 10. What are you going to give Halo 2?
I'm giving Halo a 9.
I'm giving that a 10 as well, but I'd still choose Half-Life 2 if I could only have one.
So the final verdict then is Half-Life 2 by a little hair. But still amazing must-have games for both systems.
Get them both if you can.
Today on the show, we took a look at Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. There's a killer story in this game and some terrific action, but the dialogue veers towards very cheesy. Rumble Roses. Well, you get your nearly naked female wrestlers in here, but you also get some of the worst VO and storytelling ever. Prince of Persia, Warrior Within. The visuals and fighting mechanics in this game are much improved, but man, we sure didn't need that hard rock and music through the whole thing. In Versus, it was Halo 2, which features awesome multiplayer, the best use of Xbox Live yet, against Half-Life 2, which features one of the most impressive and immersive single-player stories we've ever seen in video games. Now, both of these shooters rock, and after much debate, we had to choose Half-Life 2.
Too much repetition, it's all exactly the same, and it's all bad. I'm giving Rumble Roses... I'm giving Rumble Roses...